How's everybody doing? I'm back with another video. Once again, I want to deal with the Aboriginal community, who I believe, in my opinion, is doing a lot of harm to the black community. I want to start with two individuals that they oftentimes speak of when they want to claim that we're Aboriginals to America. I'm going to talk about others, but I want to start with two: Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Now, let's start with Martin Luther King because that's the easiest one to debunk. Now, Martin Luther King, they quote him as saying that, from his 1963 speech in Washington, his famous I Have a Dream speech, where he talks about being exiled in our own land for 100 years. Okay? And a lot of people in the Aboriginal community ran with that. Like, wow, he's basically telling us that that America is really our land. But if you just listen to his words and just do simple math, you understand that he's not saying that. You have to remember, the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1863. The speech was given in 1963. That's 100 years. No more to it than that. Anyone that suggests that there's more to it than that is purposely being deceitful and dishonest. Okay, let's talk about Brother Malcolm. This is another individual that they quote as well, who they claim is saying that we are Aboriginal Americans. They took a little snippet from a speech that he gave in 1962 when he was with the Nation of Islam. And it was, the title of the speech was Black Man's History. And I suggest that you guys listen to the whole speech, because in that speech, he also suggests that African Americans are the real Jews that the Bible speaks of. How about that? You didn't know that. But that's what he says in his speech. Okay? Now let's get to the Aboriginal community, Aboriginal comment, or the Aborigine comment. He never said that black people were Aboriginal to America. He's simply saying, by nature of the fact that we are black people, we are the original people. Therefore, we are Aborigine. That's it. He didn't say nothing other than that. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to play you a portion of the speech so that you can see or hear for yourself what he said.
And today, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that man, Adam, was a white man. But before Adam was made, the black man was already here. And that's not easy. That's not hard to see. The black man always see him. The white man will even tell you that. Because he refers to Adam as the first one. He refers to the Adamites as those who came from that first one. And he refers to the pre-Adamites as those who were here before Adam. Right or wrong? Those people that were here before Adam. And he always refers to these people as Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. But you never find a white Aborigine. Rather, Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are Aborigines. But you don't like to be called an Aborigine. You want to be called an American.
Now, you heard that? He mocked the audience for calling themselves Americans. He simply was talking about Aborigine in a context of biblical scholarship. That's it. He wasn't suggesting that African Americans are Aboriginal to Americans, or America, I'm sorry. Because you could see he mocked the audience for saying that they were Americans. Now, if he truly believed that we were Aboriginal to America, why would he mock them? You could get the transcript of that speech yourself or listen to it yourself, and you can, better understand. You could put everything in context, because that's what it's really about, putting everything in context. So what I'm going to also do is go to a speech that he gave after he left the Muslims, the Black Muslim nation, or the Nation of Islam. When he left the Nation of Islam, he gave another speech where he said that we are Africans, and I'm going to see if I can find that for you.
More respect as human beings than you and I have. And you and I live in a country which is supposed to be the citadel of education, freedom, justice, democracy, and all of those other pretty sounding words. So it was our intention to try and find out what was our African brothers doing to get results, so that you and I could study what they had done and perhaps gain from that study or benefit from their experiences. And my traveling over there was designed to help to find out how. One of the first things that the independent African nations did was to form an organization called the Organization of African Unity. The purpose of our organization of Afro-American Unity, which has the same aim and objective: to fight whoever gets in our way. To bring about the complete independence of people of African descent here in the Western Hemisphere, and first here in the United States, and bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary. That's our motto. The purpose of our organization is to start right here in Harlem, which has the largest concentration of people of African descent that exists anywhere on this earth. There are more Africans here in Harlem than exist in any city on the African continent, because that's what you and I are, Africans.
Did y'all hear that? Did you hear Brother Malcolm? You heard what he said? He said that we are all Africans. So, if anyone would dare to quote Brother Malcolm as saying that we are Aboriginals, or quote Martin Luther King as saying that we are Aboriginals, is a liar, is dishonest, and it's deceitful. You should be ashamed of yourself if you ever did that. Now, let's look at these. Let's look at this photo here. All right, let's move this over. Everybody know who this is, right? Minister Louis Farrakhan. In the forefront, in the background, is Khalid Muhammad. Now, one thing I know about these gentlemen is that everything that they say, at least in the early period of the nation, had to be okayed by Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm's speeches had to be okayed. So if you believe that Malcolm believed that we were Aboriginal, then you would have to believe that Elijah Muhammad knew the same thing. You would have to believe that Minister Louis Farrakhan knew it, and you also have to believe that Minister Khalid Muhammad knew that we were Aboriginal Americans. And they decided purposefully to keep that information from us. Now, I know you don't believe that. If anyone were to suggest that these gentlemen were afraid of the white man, that's why they didn't tell us, you guys have lost your mind. You know Minister Farrakhan. And although Brother Khalid passed away, if you knew Brother Khalid, he didn't play with the white man. He could care less what the white man thought. So he was a warrior. He was a soldier. That brother didn't care. And he was a very educated man. You can't say he wasn't educated. If you know anything about his education, the brother is a doctor. Very intelligent. So if you think for a moment that they kept this information from us, I don't know what you've been smoking. You know, because this kind of information, if they had it, would have been revolutionary in life changing for African people in this hemisphere. The empowerment that we would have received if we had that information. And to think that they would keep that from us, I don't buy it. I simply do not buy it. So let's move on. You know, I think I've proven my point about the Aboriginal comment. It's ridiculous. So let's do this. Now, this picture I want to put in context here. This picture was taken in 1875. It's a portrait of what they call the Pinos Indians of Arizona. And the only reason why I, put this picture up was to explain to you what Columbus, when he came to the New World, Hispaniola, how he described the people. Okay. He said their hair was thick, almost like a horsetail, but short. They wore it down over their eyebrows. Now, if you look at the sisters, the girls in this video, the young women in this video, you can clearly see that the hair is over their eyebrows. And they wear it long in the back, and never cut it. Now, if you look at their hair, it does look like horsehair. It's an accurate description. It looked to me he was describing these people right here. Now, there's a lot of controversy on the skin color that Columbus, ascertained, gave these people, or assigned these people, I should say. Depending on where you look for the information, they're black, or they're painted black, or they dark, or they're painted red, or they white, or they painted in all kind of colors. So I don't get caught up in the color. I get caught up in the other descriptive things because I understand there's biases. So I understand that. So, but if you look at their skin, even though this is like a black and white photo, you can clearly see that they're dark. They would be considered copper color as well. So this is what Columbus saw. So let's go to another gentleman that everybody likes to quote, Giovanni da Verrazzano. Okay, everybody likes to quote him. Okay, I'm gonna try to pull this out so we can read it clearly. I want you to pay close attention to the last paragraph. Okay. Okay, so this is how he describes the natives when he saw. Now keep in mind, Giovanni, in the indigenous community, this is their guy. This is their guy. Okay, so let's read what Giovanni's description of the natives are. And pay attention to the last paragraph, okay? They go completely naked, except around the loins. They wear skins of small animals like martens, with a narrow belt of grass around the body, to which they tie various tails of other animals, which hangs down to the knees. The rest of the body is bare, and so is the head. Some of them wear garlands of bird feathers. They are dark in color, and here we go. They are dark in color, not unlike Ethiopians. And magically, the description stops there for people in the Aboriginal community. And they say, see, they were black people. And they stop there because they want you to focus on the fact that they're dark. And they want you to focus on the word Ethiopian to suggest that they are a Negroid people, or that's who he was describing. Giovanni was describing a Negroid people. Okay, so now, but let's look at what else they say that the Aboriginal community doesn't talk about. After the Ethiopian comment, it says, with thick black hair, not very long, tied behind their head, and a small tail. Now, if it's in a tail, it suggests that the hair was somewhat straight, because it didn't say it was in a bun or curly or nappy or bushy. Doesn't say that. Okay? Let's read on. As for their physique of these men, they are well proportioned, of medium height, a little taller than we are. They have broad chest, strong arms, and their legs in other parts of their body are well composed. There is nothing else except that they tend to be rather broad in the face, but not all, for we saw many with angular faces. They have big black eyes and an attentive and open look. They are very strong. They're not very strong, but they have a sharp cunning and are agile and swift runners. For what we could tell from observations, in the last two respects, they resemble Orientals. Now we know what Orientals look like. That means they look like Asians. And it confirms that point because it says particularly those from the farthest Cenarian regions. You look up Cenarian, that's a region in China. Okay? So you see why they only stop at, they were dark in color, unlike the Ethiopians. I don't see how anyone could use Giovanni da Verrazzano's description anymore. It doesn't help their case. If they're being honest. If they're being